What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to From the Bench. I'm your host, Will Meadows, and today is our Tuesday edition of the show where we have a lot to talk about. Like I said on the last episode, we're going to be talking about some transfer portal targets I'd like the Vols to go after, I guess you'd put it, offer, try and make a valuable attempt at getting them. Obviously, some people have questions like, are the Vols doing anything in the portal? They have been quiet as of early, because obviously it's early. I mean, bowl games haven't even happened. There have been like one or two small bowl games happen, but a lot of people are raising questions on whether the Vols are active in the portal as they usually are, and we're going to answer that and more, and some people that I'd like the Vols to go after today. And Vol Hoops got a huge win on the road. We're going to talk all about that and more on today's episode. But before I get into anything, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, like this video, and comment one. Obviously, we're not going to talk too much about it because we're going to have a big episode on Friday, but we all know it's coming this Saturday over there in the Shoe at Ohio State. Huge game, one of the biggest games in the history of the school. As it's the first 12-team playoff, the first time Tennessee's been in the college football playoff. So, I mean, you don't have to hype it up. The implications are there for the Vols. And then also how you feel about if you watched this crazy game that we played on Saturday against Illinois. But we'll start with football, as we usually do. Just a few things going around the program. Jermod McCoy and Sampson were named AP All-Americans, which in my opinion, that's the biggest, and for most people's opinion, I feel like that's the biggest. I mean, there's a lot of All-Americans, right? A lot of people come out with All-American teams. I feel like AP's the biggest one, no doubt. So credit to them. Obviously, Jermod McCoy was second team All-SEC. Sampson was first team All-SEC and the SEC Offensive Player of the Year. So huge years by both of those guys. I was surprised not to see Cooper Mays on one of those lists, but he got his credit a lot at the end of the year, where he was put on first team All-SEC and everything else under the sun. He's got his credit where credit is due. If you follow the Instagram, which you should, make sure you guys are following all of the social medias, whichever side it is. All the handles are listed below. But on the Instagram today, I posted just a graphic saying that I wanted people to start DMing the Instagram account and on Facebook some questions that they have for Tennessee football, Tennessee basketball, around college football and around college basketball, if they had any. And today, we're not going to answer them today. Well, we're going to kind of use one as a intro to one of them. Shout out to my friend Braden Davis. But we're going to mainly try and answer those on Friday. But one of the questions that was messaged in and asked was, who will be the Vols' biggest transfer targets? Or who will the Vols try and target the most? It's kind of hard to tell because obviously, I'm not I'm not employed by the school. I'm not a coach. I don't know for sure. I don't know who's coming back with NIL and everything under the sun like that. It's hard to know who's coming back. Like today or yesterday, Drew Aller, the quarterback for Penn State, who has been projected first round in some mock drafts, second round, third round. I mean, everybody thought he was sure to leave. He's returning. So with NIL, it's kind of hard to know who's coming back because you could be making way more money in college than you could be making in the NFL. So there's that. So I've got 5 guys right here, 3 on offense, 3 on offense, 2 on defense that I'd really like the Vols to try and go after. Again, I don't know if the Vols have been in contact. I know we've offered some offensive linemen because we're really going to need to bolster up the O-line as Sprague is going to leave, Cooper Mays is gone, John Campbell's gone. We're going to have to reload on that offensive line, but I've got some other guys that I'd like the Vols to go after, or positions. Maybe not necessarily that player, but position. So the first guy we're going to talk about, one that I'm not sure we'll get because I know he's been in, and again, this is not a prediction. I have no idea if the Vols have even been in talks with these guys because, again, I don't work at the school. I don't know. But Dane Key, the wide receiver out of Kentucky, which is another reason why he may not come because it's a rivalry. But, I mean, as most people know in college football, there is no loyalty. These guys have no problem just upping and leaving and going to their rival school. It happens in college football and it happens in college basketball. The first receiver, we have two receivers on here, but the first one we're going to talk about is Dane Key, wide receiver out of Kentucky, 6'3", 210. Had a great year. Had flashes of a great year at Kentucky. With Brock Vandagriff playing quarterback for you, you can only do so much. He's a big body guy. Him and Barryon Brown complemented each other well, as Barryon Brown's more of a small speedster. He's a track star, and Dane Key's a bigger body, a guy that can go up and get it. Barryon Brown's already committed to LSU. Dane Key has been in talks with a lot of SEC schools. He was visiting Ole Miss Sunday. I know he's been in talks with Texas, been in talks with Georgia. So I'm not saying, again, like I said, these aren't predictions, but these are just some guys that I've seen and watched some film on that I'd like the Vols to go up and get. So Dane Key is one of those. Another one is Deuce Robinson, receiver out of USC, a 6'6", 220 receiver, big body receiver from USC. He's a sophomore. He's a guy who started coming on a little bit later in the year. He's, I think, the number one overall. Now that what was that? Micah Hudson has committed. I think he's the number one overall receiver in the transfer portal. We have some good history with big body USC transfers, as Brew McCoy has been great for us since he got here. Deuce Brown is a big body, like I said. He's long, he's athletic, and again, like I said, I keep saying these aren't predictions, but I really feel like we're going to need some help or maybe some depth at receiver. I don't know if Dante Thornton can come back. I've tried to figure that out. I don't know if Dante Thornton can come back. If he can, I'd assume he will, because I think he'd make more money here than he would in the NFL, because there's a lot of good receivers in this year's draft. But we're going to have Chris Brazell next year. We're going to have Mike Matthews. We're going to have Brandon Staley. Mike Matthews and Brandon Staley are going to be huge for us, especially Mike Matthews. You guys know how I feel about Mike Matthews, whether it be me talking about him on the show, me asking about him in interviews, which we should have an interview on Friday with a special guest. So it should be a great episode on Friday. But we've already lost Caleb Webb, Chaz Nimrod, Nathan Laycock. We've lost a lot of depth at the receiver position, and that's what we're going to need. And guys haven't been making plays this year. Squirrel White would come back I think he would come back. I kind of wish, call me crazy. I know some fans love Squirrel White. I kind of wish we would just move on from Squirrel White. He's a small guy, which, some small guys are good, but he doesn't really make people miss for how fast he is. He's an okay route runner. He's an okay deep threat with okay hands. I just think you know what you're getting out of Squirrel White. And I think Mike Matthews and guys like that and Brandon Staley have a lot more. Obviously, Squirrel White plays in a slot, but guys, there's a lot better options out there, or guys that could fill in with way more potential than Squirrel White. That's just my opinion. Squirrel White's had some big games with his time at Tennessee, and again, I think he's going to end up coming back. It's not like me saying this is going to make him want to leave or make Tennessee want to move on from him, but that's just my humble opinion. I think that we could go after a guy in the portal like Casey Concepcion, which I think he's dropped his top 6 or whatever it was, his top schools, and I don't think we're in it. I know he's been in talks with Alabama, especially. So, people are getting started early in the portal, and I don't know if we're kind of slow holding back because you don't want to start offering guys at one position, and we've got a lot of valuable football ahead of us. So, for instance, say we offer a receiver, and then our receivers are like, "Well, I wanted to come back next year," and you're already trying to look forward to what you got to replace me next year. I don't know if it's that, and you're trying to keep the morale up in the locker room as you've got a lot of valuable football. Because some of the teams that are doing really good in the portal right now, like LSU has been going at it in the portal, is not playing valuable football right now. So there's that. That could be some of it. We could be waiting for the second wave after the transfer or after the bowl games. There's a lot going after it. Another team that's been great in the transfer portal so far is Texas A&M. Like I said, they got Micah Hudson, the highly touted, was a freshman from Texas Tech. They got Julian Humphrey, the DB from Georgia. Some teams are getting after it in the portal right now. And I hope Tennessee, in both sports, really, especially basketball, Rick Barnes has done a great job at it. They don't just offer anybody. They offer guys that they think could fit their system and could fit their style of play and fit their locker room. We've heard Dylan Sampson talk about how this locker room is something special. It's a family. It's a brotherhood. We don't know the character of everybody. And, our offense is an offense that you really got to be some type of player with some type of football IQ to be able to play in it, because a receiver has a lot of responsibility in our offense, which we'll talk about that another day. But those are two receivers that I think we could get in. Sorry, I kind of rambled off there. But another player on the offensive side of the ball is an offensive lineman from the ACC, Braylon Moore, inside offensive lineman from Virginia Tech. He's a big body, 300-plus pounds, as most offensive linemen in college football are. But we're going to need some big bodies. Played at Virginia Tech this year. We're going to need some bodies to fill because, again, we're going to lose 3 starters. I think John Campbell is easily replaceable. You guys know how I feel about John Campbell. I'm kind of respectfully ready for him to get on. Lance Heard's got to improve next year, and especially at the center position. It's going to be hard to fill in that void because Cooper Mays has been healthy all year, which is what we've missed from him in years prior, and he's been really stinking good. So, and maybe the guys in Knoxville, the coaches feel like the depth they have behind them is what we need. So again, these aren't, like I keep saying, these aren't predictions. These are just me kind of going out there, watching some film, and trying to find some guys that I think could work for us. There's that. I'm going to save this one for last, so I'll go on to the next one. Mansour Delane, he's a DB from Virginia Tech, 6'1", 187, had a breakout year this year, had 4 picks, 7 pass deflections. He's a good tackler, physical corner. He's one that I'd really like the Vols to go after. Like I said, he's a good corner, and our corners are great. I don't know. Jermod McCoy is great. I don't know how great Ricky Gibson is, but we're going to need some depth out there because Jordan Matthews is left, who I thought was going to get a lot of playing time next year, but obviously he's gone. So we're just going to have to get some depth, and we're also going to have to get some depth at linebacker as Jalen Smith left. We know Peely's going to be gone this year. So we're really just going to have to go after depth pieces and bring in guys that are going to make the guys here right now compete for their spots, because that's what makes you better is competition and practice. And the big one right here, I feel like he'd be great for us. I have 2 guys from USC and 2 guys from Virginia Tech. I didn't even realize that until just now. But Bear Alexander, I don't know if you know the name, he was a highly touted recruit. He was really good last year. Defensive tackle from USC. Had a bit of a down year this year. He was in the portal last year, decided to come back to USC. He's going to be asking for a lot of money. He's a highly touted transfer. Like I said, kind of had a down year, but I really, really feel like a guy like him in our rotations of 12 people, I feel like Bear Alexander could come here and not be asked to play every snap, like a place like USC where their defense isn't all that. Not be asked to play every snap, but when he's firing at 100%, which is what makes our defensive line so good, is we play so many people, and so many people come on and off the field and they're ready to go. They're not tired. That's what makes them so good. And I really feel like Bear Alexander could be huge for us in that aspect. So I'd like us to see us go after him. He's a solid run stopper, but he's a great at rushing the passer from the defensive tackle position because, we're going to lose a lot. Excuse me. On the defensive line, obviously James Pierce is gone. Elmore Norman Lott is gone. I think Joshua Josephs has the potential to leave. Bryson Eason will be gone. I feel like I'm missing somebody. Elijah Simmons will be gone. We're going to lose a lot of people. Amari Thomas. We're losing a lot of people on that front line. Now, don't get me wrong. We've got people behind them that are going to be great. We've got a lot of highly touted recruits, 4 and 5 stars, waiting behind them. But, that's what, in this day and age of college football, you got to reload, and that's what we're going to have to do. So that is just some of the guys that I'd love the Vols to try and target. Like I said, I know we offered inside offensive linemen, interior offensive lineman. What did I say inside? I think I said that earlier too. An interior offensive lineman from A&M He was supposed to be on campus for a visit this past weekend, and that ended up getting canceled. I don't know if he committed or what to another school. I know we've offered an interior offensive lineman from Arizona. Like I said, it's kind of hard to track it all because the transfer portal is absolutely ridiculous. And I'll say it one last time, these aren't predictions. These are just guys that I hope we'd go after. We may never talk to any 5 of these guys, but I think these are 5 guys that could probably, in my opinion, fit our scheme. So that's what we're going to talk about for football today. On to basketball. Man, if you watch that game, it was absolutely ridiculous. The Vols went to Champaign, Illinois in an incredibly hostile environment, so credit to them. It was rocking. They were coming off of a big win against ranked Wisconsin. Illinois is probably a top 25 team in the country, in my opinion. They've got a lot of talented freshmen. They're got a solid rotation. Like, Illinois is a really good basketball team. Stats of the game, and then I'll start talking about the game. Jordan Gainey, MVP of the game, hit the game winner. Had 23 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 assists. He was just huge for us. Chaz Lanier had 17 points. Obviously, he fouled out and missed a good bit of time. So he had 17, kind of struggled to hit some threes and free throws especially. Igor Milicic had 7 points, but he also had 14 rebounds, which was huge in a game that Felix Okapara seemed to be a non-factor. He could not throw it in the ocean. Igor couldn't. He was like 2 of 13. And like 0 of 8 from 3, 0 of 7 from 3. Usually he hits threes. He'll probably shoot 2 a game or 4 a game, and he'll hit 1, or 3 a game and hit 1. I mean, that's not 4 a game and hit 1. He's not a 25% free throw or 3-point shooter. He's been a solid shooter for us this year, and it just wasn't his day. That's how the game of basketball is. I've had those days, and I'm sure anybody watching the show who's played basketball has had those days too, where he just couldn't throw it in the ocean. We had some guys come off the bench and play very valuable minutes. Darlin Stone Dubar had 5 points, a block, and a few rebounds that were huge for us. Cade Phillips was Cade Phillips. Y'all know how I feel about his important minutes. Jemai Mashak was huge. Obviously, Gainey was huge. I mean, we had a lot of guys play some valuable minutes. Zakai Ziegler, I'm going to talk about the negatives first and get those out of the way and then talk about the positives. Zakai Ziegler, I know he fouled out and didn't get to play very much, because he had 4 fouls early, and then he came in and kind of fouled less than 2 minutes in. Zakai Ziegler, man, just has to be better. And again, in these games against better teams. That's just my humble opinion. I mean, he just seems to always kind of fold against these better teams. And it's not every game, don't get me wrong. It's not every time we play somebody better. But in March, which obviously it's not March, it's December, but he's just got to be better, in my opinion. There's a lot of games where we play better teams and he just kind of just freezes up and just can't I mean, I think he had 6 points and 4 of them were free throws, and he missed a very important free throw. I don't remember if Sakai fouled out, but I know he didn't play very much. I think he did foul out. Yes, he did. He's got to be better. Felix Okapara, I've been saying this multiple times this year. He is a carbon copy of Jonas Adu against good teams, I'm not going to lie. No touch or feel around the rim. And Felix, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to tear you apart here. I'm just being honest. It's not my job, but what I'm supposed to do on this show. And I hope you prove me wrong, and I hope you turn into the greatest big that college basketball has ever seen. No touch or feel around the rim. Like, if it's not a dunk, he's not really a threat to score. But then also, he just, he's a good rim protector. I'll give him that. He's got a long wingspan. He times blocks well, but he's not a good defender. He gets pinned under the basket so easily. He's not very strong. He's just not impressed me at all this year. And if you look on paper, you'd be like, oh, well, he's a good defender. No, he's not. And he doesn't rebound the ball well at all. They had like 6 offensive rebounds. And I know that's not only on him, but, I mean, he just isn't. He wasn't physical at all. They probably had 6 offensive rebounds or in the first 3 minutes of the game. And again, that's not all on him, but he was kind of just getting thrown underneath the basket, and they're just getting offensive rebounds. So he's got to be more physical, no doubt about it. on the bright side of things. You went into a hostile environment. You couldn't throw it in the ocean. Charles Lanier was the only guy who had a field goal for like the first 10 minutes of the game, and he still found a way to win. I mean, that's hard in itself right there. This team needed a gritty win like that. They moved to 10-0, the best start in school history. And you're going to be 13-0 because you played 3 teams that aren't very good. I think it's like Western Carolina tonight. I'll be there for my first appearance at a Tennessee basketball game this year. I think like Norfolk State somewhere in there, and then another bad team. And then you go to SEC play. So you go into SEC play, hopefully, if nothing goes wrong, 13-0. You open with Arkansas, who's a very talented team, 2 losses, but they're still good. Florida, who's the 7th-ranked team in the country. Don't get me wrong, Florida has not played a soul, though. They just haven't. They have not played anybody good. Their best win's Virginia, who we beat to a pulp. And Virginia is probably our 4th or 5th best win. And then Texas, Georgia, Vanderbilt, teams like that. I mean, you're getting in the SEC play. That was a much-needed win, and they needed a win like that. Not a win because, we've beaten the brakes off of Baylor, beaten the brakes off of Louisville, Virginia. Like, we've beaten a lot of good teams really easily. We needed a win like that. Gainey came up huge, showed depth from the team, showed some fight. Because, again, we haven't really seen much fight because, we started off slow in the Virginia game in the first half, but then in the second half, we beat them by 20. It was a much-needed win. The defense, and then this is kind of like football, how they say defense travels. On days where you're never going to be able to throw it in the ocean, this team's always going to be in it because the defense is incredible. Meshack is an incredible defender. Zakai, obviously, is an incredible defender. Chaz Lanier is a very good defender. These guys are great. Igor's a solid defender, and he's kind of a pest in passing lanes. This team is really, really good. I still think they're the second best team in the country outside of Auburn. I've talked about Auburn a few times on the show. Auburn is different. But this team is really good. I think this is, and I said this, and I'm saying, I'm patting myself on the back. Good job, Will. I said this team was going to be better than last year's, and I'm so far I'm right. Sorry, I stuttered there. I think the more Darlington Dubar gets to play, he's going to be better and better and better for us. I definitely think this team's better than last year. And, like with Adu last year, we didn't have really anybody behind him. Owaka was solid, but very small. JP Estrella was still a freshman. But now, Igor's still 7 foot tall. So if Felix Okapar is not doing good, you can run that rotation where you move Igor to the 5 and play Darlington Dubar at the 4. He played great minutes for us. Cade Phillips has been great for us this year. We have a lot of guys behind Felix that can play if he's not playing good. And that's what's different about this team to now because last year, guys like Josiah weren't getting, Triple J wasn't getting it done. Santiago Vescovi, I'm not going to say much on him, was not good last year. It was a one-man show last year, and that's not the case this year. We have one player that's better than everybody and a lot of players that are still really good. So that's that. But I think that's going to wrap it up for today's episode. Like I said, we have a huge episode coming this Friday, so stay tuned for that. And if you haven't seen the Instagram post, go look over at the Instagram. Like I said, the handle's right here. And go shoot me a DM if you have any questions. I'm going to try and answer a lot of those on Friday. But thank you guys for watching. I hope everybody has a great rest of their day, and go Vols.